Good day, Dr. Olisa Agbakoba. Thank you for granting this interview. Let's start with this question. With the staggering amounts being mentioned has been siphoned down, and the unrelenting zeal of the federal government, how would you assess the Buhari administration's fight against this irritant scourge? That's the embezzlement of public funds.
Well, first is to congratulate the government for at least recognizing the blatant and endemic corruption in Nigeria. I think this is the first government to go this length in attacking it. But that's by saying something.
Okay.
So that's to be saluted. But so did President Obasanjo.
Okay.
And so actually did President Jonathan.
Okay.
So I'm not sure that there's any special prize to be paid, to be given or awarded. Maybe because the president says, I'm going to tackle corruption. Why do you elect a president in the first place? That's the job is come to do. Don't forget that presidents come on platforms. And this president came on the platform of change. So I expect that what he's doing is what he should do. So where I hope to see him go is a practical demonstration measured by how much money is brought back into the coffers and plowed into development of roads, infrastructure, jobs, and creating our national infrastructure so Nigeria can gain its prominent place. That coherent policy is still not very sharp. And I pray that that's where he wants to go. All what he has said has been said by past presidents. So kudos for him, but there's a long way to go to convince me that that there is some biting to be done, hard biting. For instance, I want Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala recalled because around her name circulates a lot of the potential corrupt practices. I don't by this say that she's done anything wrong, but she just needs, like Sepp Blatter, to tell us her story. And so the only way she can tell us her story is not by sitting in some fancy desk in the World Bank, but coming right here. The way the corruption process will go, the law will be no respect of persons. There will be a brutal attack on all those who have stolen money. And if that is done, it's going to have a roots and branch, reform process. A lot people will feel it. People will feel the hurricane. Right now there's a drizzle. It's when that hurricane comes down that I can say, yes, Mr. President, you have done well.
So let me take you back to some of the comments you made with this question. Do you think the present administration is different from previous administrations and fighting corruption?
I'll expand it a bit. Do I think this administration is different from previous ones? Yes. Because being a man on the left, this is the first government that says we're on the left. So ideologically, I have a government that agrees with what I say. Never before, mark it.
That's political ideology.
Yeah, never before in the history of Nigeria has a leftist government been in office. What the leftist government does is social reform, social regulation. Leftist governments attack the elite conspiracy, those who want things to remain as they are, and their pope is referred to as the Washington Consensus, neoliberal economic policies driven by the IMF and the World Bank. So this government is taking the opposite view, standing for Nigerians. The National Bureau of Statistics has reported 100 million Nigerians are unemployed. That's not acceptable. That's why my social part of my brain supports keep the subsidy. The economic part of my brain says remove it. But to remove it will make the market efficient. But it will send a hardship signal down the road. So for corruption, people need money. But if money is in the hands of 1% of Nigerians, we've got to go get it.
Okay, sir. While it looks like this administration is people-focused, do you think the administration can really maintain people-centric policies, or is this just a flash in the pan?
I hope it's not. I don't know, but I just pray it is not, because for too long, Nigerians get deceived by lofty campaign promises. Get into office, nothing is delivered. So I just really hope that this time around, President Buhari's leftist ideology will be implemented to the letter, in not in any way to drive away or put aside market efficiency. Both can go together, and that's why it's called social democracy. When you have social regulation and market efficiency working together, it's called social democracy, and that's probably what they have in the UK. For all the pretense of the conservatives in the UK to be a monetarist centre-right party, it's also a social democratic party. They are supporting the National Health Service. They are supporting back-to-work programs for youths. They are supporting first-time mortgage, loans for first-time buyers, £20 billion. So indeed, even the United Kingdom is pushing a lot of social programs in the context of being a centre-right party. That's the model I want to see here.
Okay, sir. To another aspect of this administration, as you might have noticed, people say that the president is fond of making some important announcements and decisions at conferences overseas while overseas. Should this be the norm, or is there something wrong with his communication team or strategy?
I think there's something wrong with the communication strategy, not just of this president, of many other presidents.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. After all, President Jonathan gave the indication that the INEC chair, the nature of the INEC chair, he gave that indication in Paris. So I don't know why they do that. To be quite honest with you, I don't have an answer for that. But it ought to stop. And I think it's to do with the I don't want to call it colonial mentality, but there's something that makes us feel that we must please the international community without defining our own national agenda.
The coconut syndrome.
That is possibly it, which is not correct, you see. So I do hope that they will stop it. But quite recently I did say that I thought that the president, as the current president, had a very important ideological message to convey. But because he has two press secretaries doing the same thing, the message is cluttered. One guy should concentrate on the diarization of his work, but the other guy should be the one dealing with communicating government's larger agenda, dealing with the perception of government between the people and the governed. I think that of course you have the third guy, and that's the Minister of Information, and then you have the National Orientation Office. There are far too many information mechanisms in the government that it requires to be modernized and brought up to speed, so that at each point in time the Nigerians will be clear what their governors or their leaders are doing. So a lot needs to be done in the area of information management and strategy.
Okay. So to the next question, how would you rate Nigeria's human rights record? Any improvements?
Yes. Depends on what you mean. If you go back to the Abacha IBB days, of course, it's massive improvement. The fact that we have democracy, even though our democracy is illiberal, we have the vote, but not the rule of law, so it's not really a democracy. But clearly, it's different to what it was in those days. But there's still some ways to go. If Nigeria were to apply to join the European Union, we will not qualify.
Why?
Because it's a European Union human rights standard, so we're below that. African countries are generally below that standard because they've set up themselves a lot of lofty national mechanisms, which you'll find in Chapter 2 of the Constitution, Chapter 4 of the Constitution, the African Human Rights Charter, and the New African Court. We're not following it. The recent brutalization of Nigerians in Zaria is a case in point. Yes, they may be doing the wrong thing, but every Nigerian has a right to demonstrate, and a demonstration is not answered by shooting. Everybody will be dead then. So that shows you that there's a lot. Whilst we've come a long way, we are still not attaining the minimum standards. What about all the guys in prison without due process?
So the next question, this has to do with the legal angle. How come, I wonder, and I'm sure a lot of young people like myself and people also wonder, how come government prosecution teams always, should I use the word mishandle their cases, thereby, and it usually appears they always go to court without being prepared? How come? Why is this?
Many things. First is the political will on the part of government to absolutely prosecute the case. And I like to use the football analogy. Abramovich was not happy that Mourinho's team was sliding to relegation, fired him. Here, what is the objective of government in prosecuting cases? Is it to say to the Attorney General, here are 10 crooks, I want them to be in jail in 1 year. What's the objective? What do we want from what we do? Now, if you don't have anything, we call it management by objective, MBO. If there's nothing that you want, you don't set yourself a goal, then there'll be a drift. So that's the biggest problem. The fact that the political will isn't there to really attack corruption. Let me give another analogy. How is it that ISIL occupies territory, raises about $20 billion a year, uses it to bomb everywhere? It's the very complicit nature of the West, because money that they sell from oil passes through the international system. So just the other day, the international community, under the auspices of the UN, have declared they're going to shut down all the avenues through which ISIS can evacuate money. That shows that finally, given the Paris bombing and how ISIS is taking the war to America, the resolve is now to say no more. Enough is enough. Now, have we got to that point here? No. And that goes back to one of the early questions. Is there a president, and is this president prepared to say, if I do nothing else, I'm going to run out every corrupt person in Nigeria, to the point that if you go to the smallest village, they'll be saying, what's going on? They will know about it. It will shake Nigeria. If that will is not there, then you will have lazy prosecutors who draft poor charges, who are not well paid. Look, to fight corruption is to assemble a formidable team of senior advocates of Nigeria. You can't fight corruption with ill-qualified lawyers. You can't win the World Cup with a third-rate team. If you want to fight corruption, you got to have the best. So I do hope that the talk about constituting a National Prosecution Council will be soon, announced, so that the best legal minds are given the assignment of going after these people. You can't use second to third rate people to get it. So that's why there's all the model. And then you come to the judges. If you have what I call legal failure, speed of justice is not working, it takes 20 years to finish a case. Nobody has really sat down to say, let's redraft the rules of procedure. If you have a road that was built 100 years ago, and then you're surprised that it's traffic jam, why should you be surprised? We need to open the road of justice so that a lot of traffic can go through it. So there are a lot of reasons why what you described is happening.
So, to the next question, how best can lawyers help citizens get justice from previous administrations who misappropriated funds that should have been used to deliver healthcare or whatnot, and also lead to loss of lives?
Lawyers can play no role. Lawyers are not government. You need to first construct the state apparatus to deal with the problem. What can a lawyer do? A lawyer goes to court. He's handicapped by the snail pace of justice. He's handicapped by a lack of interest on the part of the prosecutor. He's hampered by a lack of interest or lack of political will. He can't do anything. He's only earning his income. So the correct question is, how can the state construct the system in a way that motivates lawyers to assist in the process of fighting the anti-corruption crusade?
That's quite profound. Bringing it back to current currency now, without mentioning names. When funds meant for a country's military, are diverted, thereby affecting the military's efficiency, isn't that what is known as sabotage or treason?
If you refer to Colin, that's okay. If true, that would rank as one of the most despicable acts of treasonable felony I've ever seen. If true, because he's entitled to it in court.
Yes.
But if what is coming out is true, it is I will call on the president to take the strongest possible measures against anybody found to be associated directly or indirectly with this process, because it's time that we stanched the slide of Nigeria into the abyss. A friend of mine, one of the world's leading scholars on anti-corruption, made a very profound statement. At the time he made it, I didn't quite appreciate what he was saying. His name is Larry Diamond. But he said that when corruption is endemic, that is when it has so eaten into the fabric of a system, just reversing it constitutes a major challenge. Just stopping it constitutes a major challenge. The president's every energy must be focused in that cause. And when the president's energy is focused in that cause, there's a positive association that Nigerians pick up, because Nigerians are not corrupt people. They're just a few guys giving us a bad name. So I hope that the president's every energy, whatever he's going to do, whether it's in water, roads, fuel subsidy, that the overarching policy of the president is to tackle this issue of corruption. Because when it is tackled, it will allow development to rear its head. Development has been smothered, and of course, as development is smothered, so is meritocracy. And down the line, we have so many, degrees.
Rippling effect.
It's a rippling effect. You'll be shocked what's happening. Quality of lawyers, quality of doctors, quality of journalists, quality of everything. It's been quality of aircraft. No one cares. People just fly their aircraft. They mix it with kerosene. They don't care that if they do that, the likely consequence is that it will kill people. That's how Sosoliso aircraft crashed, killing students 10 years ago. Because nobody cares. It's all about what can I get out of it. Because the system becomes, overtaken by evil. So one man says, if that guy is doing it, I can do it. So that's what turning around this mess will assist Nigeria to come out of. Otherwise, we're going to continue to slide.
So to the next question. Just in case it happens, would you be willing to lead a class action lawsuit on behalf of citizens on any burning issue?
Yeah, absolutely. I've done it before. I'll do it
Okay.
again. Yeah.
Oh, you have like
So many.
So many.
So many across the field.
Okay.
Across the field on housing when they broke down Morocco.
Okay.
Soldiers who have been court-martialed who went to court. Femi Falana went to court. Death penalty questions, prisoners' rights to a fair trial, education, and the fact that you cannot discriminate against one set of people in one part of the country as against the other, giving them different cut-off marks. Of course, the issue of how to properly fund the judiciary, I was in court. Most of these cases I won, but right to passport, I went to court. My passport was taken. I went to court about 15 years ago. I won. It wasn't returned, but when Shonekan was president in the state, he ordered the SSS to return it to me. So there's nothing. There's a lot to be said for what I call strategic impact litigation, where you use strategic cases. Of course, Ghani was the past master of this. You use strategic impact litigation to push public causes. Okay. That's what we've been doing for the last 30 years even.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going. Okay, so two more questions to go. What do you think would be the burning issues for 2016 in Nigeria?
Stability.
Stability. Why do you say so?
The country is not stable.
The country is not stable.
It's falling apart. It's not obvious to you. The country is falling apart. I mean, if an earthquake occurs in Guatemala, you mightn't feel it, except those who are situated there. So Nigeria is too big that the systemic shocks that it has been taking is not felt, but it's doing damage. It's doing damage to the political stability of Nigeria. Nigeria is a very fragile country. No one's going to. I've been watching the ASI on the stock market. The bourse is down by 50%. There's no confidence in investing here because there's nothing to invest in. So stability is what needs to be achieved. Stability is caused by all kinds of social unrest. Boko Haram being number one. I don't know where the Zaki thing will play out. The Biafra agitation has just started. I hear rumblings in the Niger Delta. So already Boko Haram, Niger Delta, and the Biafra question knocks out about 40% of Nigeria. That is instability. We are at what I'll call low-grade war without realizing it, because you can't go many places. They're not posting youth corps to the northeast. If this continues in the southeast, then it will be difficult, unless you are an Igbo man like me, so you know how to meander. But I don't see why you want to go there when you don't know whether you can have your safety assured. If that is the situation now, and nothing happens to build confidence in the next 1 to 2 weeks, then we're already in 2016, and it continues to grow. Then 2016 will be signposted by instability. The only way to attack it is to do two things. First, this anti-corruption crusade must be at the top of the agenda. Then two is to ask the underlying causes of instability. It's to do with the failed federal structure that we have inherited. So it's time for President Buhari to step up to the plate, end this nonsense of past presidents who use it for political gain. There have been 5 presidents that have held political conferences. I attended one. It's time to say, we don't need further talk. We need to have a president who will get behind a popular crusade as passed by every Nigerian for a new nation that will have peace and stability built on equity and inclusion. Every Nigerian must be shown his or her room in the house. Right now, at least 100 million Nigerians are outside. They have no homes. So why would they fight? They have nothing to lose. Then few Nigerians, the 1%ers, occupy 90% of the rooms in the Nigerian house. So those on the outside are not going to give them peace. So unless you deal with the, federal inequity, then these 1%ers, what I call the elite conspirators, will continue to dominate the Nigerian space to the exclusion of these guys who will cause problem. So Boko Haram is an economic problem. The problem in the Biafran thing is an economic problem. If you resolve it by redressing the federation, restructure it, create a new constitution, then I think you will see some progress. A president should send a bill to the National Assembly styled the Bill for an Act of Union of the peoples and nationalities of Nigeria and make it pass in 3 months. You will be surprised at the energy that this country will release.
With your detailed response, you just reminded me of something. Do you believe in this, as a young person, I don't believe in this federal character that we do here. Do you believe is what we should do, or is something that will, as Nigeria grows in its democratic ways, is something that will face out?
Federal character is the answer given by the elite conspirators to deceive those outside the room that they're entitled to be in the room. So those who are in the room are in the are not there by virtue of ethnicity or tribe. They're there by shooting their way to power. But they know that it will be unsettling if they are all from one place. So they now tell themselves, you know what, let's pretend that in the Supreme Court we have a spread, so it looks federal. So the answer to that problem is to say, why do we need to have just one Supreme Court? Why do we need to have one Supreme Court? We need to have one Supreme Court on issues touching Nigeria. So in the United States of America, you have 9 Supreme Court judges dealing with issues touching the United States, but not on local matter affecting California. So if I dispute Obi Okonkwo's claim to inheritance of my village custom, I should go to the Supreme Court of Anambra State and deal with it there, and that's final. So I find my redress in the context of my locality. Then if I have a problem with the federal system, then I go to the center. In which case I'm not really too bothered who sits in the center, because my life is determined by local circumstance. So with Sharia, if Sharia were not a national religion, as it has been made, then if they're all pleased to make themselves a Sharia state in the context of a Nigerian constitution, nobody's going to bother. If I decide as governor of Anambra State and I put it to referendum that the people say, oh, Catholicism shall be the religion of the state, that's their problem. It doesn't affect anybody. But it's because every single policy affects the whole country, whether it's on education, on refuse bins, on basic health, it affects the whole. So we then fight. Then we then answer it by saying, all right, federal character, since I see that you are not being included, or I bring your own, whether he's good or bad. So federal character promotes mediocrity. But the real problem of federal character is it pretends to be the answer to the centripetal federal structure, which is a pyramid. Remove the pyramid and there'll be no need for federal character, because the Supreme Court justices of the Eastern region will simply be the people from there. So that's the answer. So that question really strikes at this need for, decomposing the Nigerian state and building up a new one.
One final question on a lighter note. What's the current book you are reading?
I'm reading about 10 of them.
10 books at the same time?
Yeah. I just read one that I like very much, and that deals with the fifth gospel. The claim is there's a fifth gospel, and there's a conspiracy between the Eastern Orthodox Catholics and the Western Orthodox Catholics That's very interesting.
What's the title of the book?
The Fifth Gospel.
Written by?
I can't remember who wrote it.
Okay.
Then I'm reading Kissinger on China.
Oh, okay.
On China, that's
okay.
very good.
Henry Kissinger.
Yes, reading Kissinger on China. I just finished a very good book on how to manage wealth.
How to manage wealth by?
I don't remember who. I just read a lot. Then I finished a very, very good one, Leadership, by Alex Ferguson. Fantastic.
Okay.
Fantastic. I learned a lot about strategy from reading his book.
Okay.
So,
do you read these books simultaneously, or you finish one?
No, I can read them all at the same time. If I'm reading one, I have a book in my car. I have a book on my table. I believe I have one here now. I have one by my bedside. So sometimes I'm taken in to follow through on one. Like when I read A Brief History of Time, that is fantastic, by Stephen Hawking. I went through that one very fast. And when I read another one on a brief history of the world, it took me from antiquity to modern day. That I blasted. So I have my speed and stamina for different books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But basically, I read heavy books. I don't read. I don't read non-fiction.
Oh, okay.
I don't read non-fiction. It's non-fiction. I don't read fiction. I don't read fiction. I like autobiographies, heavy books on religion, leadership, ideas. Those are my sorts of books.
Sir, thank you very much for this interview. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.